I love
This
it.
is why hospitality people are so much fun.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
good luck starting a meeting on time
Right.
and, in serious nature, it's not possible.
Well, welcome back to Beyond the Binder. Today we're going to be talking about something every hotel operator knows, but rarely names: the gap between learning the standard and delivering it. Hospitality students understand service principles, they pass the test, they know what good looks like, then they hit the floor and execution varies. That gap isn't a knowledge problem, it's a systems problem. And it starts long before someone gets hired. Today, Adam and I will be talking with Finley. I was going to ask you how to pronounce your last name. Cotrone?
Cotrone, or if you're Italian, Cotrone.
Well, I wasn't sure. Either way, I like Cotrone. Finley at UNLV to dig into how experiential learning is evolving to close that gap and what actually takes to prepare students not just to understand hospitality, but to deliver it consistently. So if we're ready, I don't know
I'm
Italian,
ready.
so it's going to be in English.
Andiamo.
More pasta.
Well, I am excited and thrilled for the doctor Finley to join us and talk through just standards and real life. And Finley, I think that the realest and coolest part about you is you've done all of it. And oftentimes when I think, shameless plug here for my alma mater and favorite hotel school, UNLV, is that I think this is what's so great about this school is it brings real talent, like people that have actually been there and have walked that floor, so to speak, quite literally. And your background, I remember when I was a student at UNLV and landed this amazing internship in the HR department. And then it was almost like, they released Finley on me and they were just like, okay, Adam, this is Finley. Here's your gloves. No, I'm kidding. Like, here she is. And I was like, were you a juggler or a stand-up comedian, something like that in your early life? And then, all the training. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing to be around someone that is, at the time you were the learning and development manager at Four Seasons in Las Vegas. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, it's nice that there's somebody that's done it. And I think that that's also the best part about, you in the classroom is you've been there and done it. You've put up with the bull crap.
I've been yelled at till I've cried in the walk-in.
Yeah, exactly. This conversation.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things, like I tell my students, I feel like if you're going to teach the customer experience, you have to have been yelled at by somebody who has lost their mind.
Yeah.
So that you realize, oh, okay, this isn't about me. And now I've got to figure out, how do I help that person see that, it's not life and death, it's pancakes.
Yes, and not only that, I'm going to add onto that is I have said this almost exact phrase. I said, until you've been yelled at by someone whose goal it is to make you cry, like that is their goal. Like they're actually trying to break you, and you go, oh, I'm sorry that your pancakes and eggs came out wrong, or I'm sorry that your room isn't ready before our approved check-in time that we told you about, and in email and is on our website, but I'm sorry. Well, I do know who you are.
And one of the things that I try to tell my students is we have to reframe that, because in my head, I'm like, it's pancakes. But in reality, something's going on for that human being that really sucks, right? So I talk a lot about that. The healthy thing to do is to rethink or to reframe what's happening in wow, it's got to be really hard to be this person today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's also helpful when we're dealing with that is you say, like, look, oftentimes, okay, it's pancakes or it's whatever it is. But honestly, when you think about it, especially when it's family vacation and it's family time, it's no, this is the reason that you work, is to afford this experience. So, all of that stress of work and planning and all of that stuff, that actually is part of the pancakes, right? Of like, no, these are supposed to be perfect. I've planned it all. So
Yeah,
it's
and
so great to
I
be a
know
part of
that's
it.
not what we're here to be talking about, but I think that really helps us understand the importance of what we do. If somebody gets an average of 2 weeks of vacation a year and they chose to spend it with us, we have an enormous responsibility in how we deliver it. Yeah.
Huge.
Is that why French waiters are rude? Because the French have 8 weeks off? And they're like,
That's why they know,
okay.
They're rude because it's part of the experience.
It is.
Yeah, this is what I paid for.
Exactly. Now I know I'm in Paris.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what we came here to talk about.
Please.
No, that was good. When you think about experiential learning, Finley, what does that actually look like, in the hospitality classroom today?
So obviously, it depends on what class you're in. If you're in an intro to food and beverage class, what experiential learning looks like is you're cutting onions and you're cutting, you're learning how to julienne carrots or make a sauce or whatever. And those experiences then culminate ideally into the students actually creating all the pieces and delivering all the pieces. So I teach an immersive dining class that in the first 8 weeks of the semester, students either know me or they don't. And I come in and I go, all right, you guys, we've got 7 weeks during which you're going to create something from nothing. And when I say create something from nothing, I mean they're doing the menus, they're doing the service standards, they're writing them, and then they're going to train them. They are writing out the guest journey. They are doing marketing, right? They're doing everything to prepare for us to sell tickets for a dining show. And my favorite part of that is when they go, Finley, is this going to work? And I say, I don't know. Do you think it's going to work? Right, because if it's not going to work, we're going to figure it out on the fly, and that's that flexibility is something that it's really important for students to learn. Last time I did it, short story, and then I'll shut up. But last time I did it, I had an arrival process that the students were talking about, and I was like, I'm going to recommend against that. I want you to think about this. And they were very passionate about their arrival process. And I said, okay, well, the first show's the free show where we can figure out our food timing. So let's do it. And it was, I hope it's okay that I say this, a bit of a shit show of an arrival process.
Surprise.
And the great thing that came out of it is that the students that are passing hors d'oeuvres were like, all right, we got to go to the check-in line to pass the hors d'oeuvres, right? Like they figure out on the fly, this is a problem. We're going to change it later. But for now, nobody can know that this is a problem. So while they're waiting, we're going to make it less painful. So that's kind of my example of what experiential learning looks like in the classroom. And I think every professor has something that they do leading up to those culminating experiences.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about that, I mean, when I think back onto my education, my degree from UNLV, it's those moments that really translated directly into real life work. When I hit the floor, it was like, wow, this is it. I'm okay. What did I learn there? And it is funny that now, even now, graduated in business, I'm still pulling from the education, but it was those immersive experiences that taught me, I think, like front loaded, we could say, that learning experience that actually made me qualified, or I don't know if qualified is the right word, but gave me the confidence and competence to show up and try, and it really does.
Yeah. And I think you probably took the bistro class,
I did.
the
Yeah.
create a restaurant and run it in a semester. And a lot of what we do in our hospitality college is around food. And I have students that are like, I'm going to be in hotel. I don't want to do food. Okay, but also you're going to need to know a little bit about food
Yeah.
and the flexibility and the problem solving and the figuring it out on the fly so that you can plan better next time is the same skill.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
literal fire actually is a thing that you've got to like work around. Like this thing's actually on fire, so please be careful. You know, maybe a metaphor for the front office, but you know, when you actually have to work around an open flame, you got to use your brain here,
Right.
because getting burned is not just, you know, metaphor here. And
Right.
yeah,
My
you
well,
gotta
my next question was like, where does the traditional classroom learning fall short when preparing students? And what I'm hearing is that you Adam called it immersive. Um, you know, is that what it is? Is there a lot of traditional classrooms still going on? Is it more immersive? But where are we falling short, do you think?
I think yes, absolutely. Traditional classroom still occurs, right? I think
Yeah.
it's important that there be some theoretical so that you understand the underpinnings of the why of what you're learning how to do. I think that's hugely important. One of the challenges we have, I think, today is we have an entirely online track to our degree, which is intended for students that are working. So I'm going to be able to get my degree and I'm working full time. So the ideal is they're learning the theoretical and then they're able to apply it at work. I think the challenge in some of that is just like our kids, our students have choice and they make choices that you try to explain to them, this will benefit you. You need to do this internship because it will benefit you. But ultimately, they make choices and sometimes they just take the classes to get the grades to keep moving on, where in an applied degree like ours, my favorite students are the ones that want to get in and get dirty because they know this is going to benefit me exponentially. And then they'll go and do an internship and I'll get an email or a text that says, OMG, Finley, I need to talk this out. This just happened and I need to better understand it, right? And I live for those because that's somebody that has jumped into all the experiences. So I think that's really where we struggle. And I don't think that's the fault of the education. I think that's a super busy human who's trying to get their degree, who doesn't necessarily know that this experience, I'm selling myself short when I don't draw the journey map from my Chipotle journey.
It makes me think of I took no degree hard degrees class in hotel law, right? And I loved, I think, to sum up, it can't be taken as a direct quote, but when Professor Hardegree said to us, she was like, look, you can learn and pass the test and still fail the exam of like life of working, because ultimately, this is a law class, like, because you're going to say something stupid and guess what? That's going to cost you $1 million and you're going to regret it. And it was like, oh, and I wish I would have had that opening a little earlier myself, of just like, because there is a point where you are just taking like, okay, learn this stuff, get the formula, pass it, knowledge dump for the next class, right? Like, great, I got through that. But I like how you said that, hospitality is such an applied learning industry. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's not about learning, the answer to the test. It's about learning the process and how to think through the situation and what are the avenues that will help you critically think through this to actually get what you need to do. sure, there's some direct answers with some finance questions and yes, some legal things, but really our industry is completely riddled with, you've got to use your brain to think through the scenario, because every single scenario that you encounter is a completely different situation. Every single one.
Yes. And most of our students, when they come to us, have 12 years of studying the one right answer.
Yeah.
I remember the first day that I walked into a class and I had assigned reading from Setting the Table by Danny Meyer.
Oh, such a good book.
And I love that book. And I said, all right, what did you think? And they started giving me the facts of the pieces. And I go, oh no, I've read it. I want to know what you think. And they all went,
what?
So I think we have done a disservice in how we have created the testing that becomes the accountability for schools on whether they're working or not, because we've trained young people to stay up all night cramming, which means after the test is over, they don't remember it. And yet in an applied degree like hospitality, everything builds and you learn the important pieces of service delivery as a freshman that you then apply as a sophomore when we're looking at, now you're supervising this. Now, what do you do? Right. And so I think that's our struggle that isn't really our fault, but we have to figure out how to address it.
So true. Man, I can attest to that.
Yeah, our school system sucks. I'll say it.
I volunteer to be on the committee to help us figure out how we make it better.
Yes.
Because I am a really good facilitator of other people's brilliance and really bringing it together.
Nominated, voted, ratified. We're in.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So do students understand what a standard is? Do they accept it? And the real question for me is, when they learn it, what happens when they actually try to apply it in a live environment? And the reason I asked the initial part of that question is because, I did some waiting tables and stuff in college and in Subway and Baskin Robbins and that kind of stuff. And I couldn't tell you standards. And I have such a, I don't know what it is about me. I don't want to do it by the book. Now, my wife wants to do everything, but give me the book. And I bet you that's a problem. Am I the problem?
Always, Jason.
This is now the Jason intervention. Yes, you're
it's
the
never
problem.
Too late.
Well, I think the challenge is, I tell my students, this is how I got jobs waiting tables in New York City. Hi, are you looking for servers? Do you have black pants? I do have black pants. Can you be back at 3? I can. And then my training was, here are the table numbers. The menu's pretty self-explanatory. You've used a computer before, right? And so that was often how I got jobs in New York. And lucky for them, I have a higher than average emotional intelligence. And I was driven by when my rent was due. So I was the best employee ever delivering great service, because when I was great, I made more money. So to your point, you're setting me up to wing it if you're not teaching me what the standard is. And my winging it, I will share without ego, was better than most people's winging it, right? So I think our students now are learning about things that I didn't even know existed when I started working in our industry. So they have tools now, if they choose to really bring them into their lives. They have tools that I never had. When I started working with standards, I was like, oh, there are companies that have lists of what's expected of you? What? And then I don't just randomly get yelled at for doing it wrong?
And not only that, but I remember the shift that happened in my brain where I was like, oh, these standards aren't, a shackle.
Right.
These aren't a demand. This is they're like the path that you're walking on, right? It's graded. It's saying, hey, stay on this thing and you won't trip over all the sticks and leaves. Like we've kind of cleared them all here. Or, they're the idea that if you're, I like going bowling with my kids and the little ones that get the bumpers, right? It's like, hey, you're not going to throw a gutter. If you follow these things and you stay within these parameters, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that as students are learning this and they're coming into an actual understanding of like, hang on, our industry is defining best practices. And I think that it's becoming understood as we understand the diversification that's happening within this industry.
Yeah.
It used to be, it was like, look, it's limited service, full service, and luxury.
Right.
That's what you get. Now there's, 15 segments of luxury service. And so you've got to figure that out. And there's, different segments within economy or limited service and full service and lifestyle services. And it's just like, whoa. But really what it comes down to is what's the defined experience we're trying to create.
Yeah.
And we do that through standards. And I think students are more savvy and privy to that than maybe I ever was or ever had the opportunity to become.
Without question. And I see standards, like I see all types of accountability as a gift. They are a gift to give me the foundation of what the rules are. Any accountability is a gift because it's those bumpers of performance or even life choices, right? And our students, I think when they're learning about standards as freshmen and sophomores, they don't know that knowing that is a gift until I'm like, all right, let me tell you about my experience. And now that my luxury class is using your Yippee app to actually test a hotel room and test how was the arrival experience, and going through the standards on their phone while they're watching somebody arrive all the way to check in, right? Because we're in my luxury class, we're using Yippee so that they get accustomed to how do I test standards while I'm also doing a job that it makes me really busy, and this is another level of work for me. So I think my students have the gift of understanding that you and I didn't have.
It's so true. And for everyone out there that is ever listening to this, if you've sat with Finley, then I think we have engraven on our hearts and foreheads, feedback is a gift.
Yes.
That was a breakthrough for me. I just had a breakthrough. I've never thought about it that way.
Yes, it is. Feedback is a gift. And that is probably an epitaph that Finley should have prepared. It's so true though. And it's just
what kind of response, Finley, are you getting from? I mean, surely you have students that are in the classroom and they're learning standards, and then they go to work, which is probably in hospitality, and they probably have some chaotic experiences, or maybe they have wonderful experiences. What kind of the feedback between that gap do you get usually?
So a couple of things come to my mind. Students are kind of stuck with me forever. The ones that really understand why I do what I do are stuck with me forever. So I've had a couple of circumstances where I had a student who was managing a major front desk, and she emailed me, hey, I need your help in creating my training materials and updating my standards because what exists isn't helpful. And so she came to my office and we worked through it, and then she put it together and sent it to me and was like, what do you think about this? Right? Because I become a sounding board. There's no one right way, but does this align with your organization? Another student was given the job of overseeing Forbes standards at a pool in a major resort. And she was like, what do I do with this? I literally just graduated and now I'm in charge of this. And I go, well, congratulations, because that's a real, a tip of the hat to how great you are. And also, welcome to you managing people that have been doing this longer than you, who are making way more money than you while they're doing it, right? Like, so it was a big deal for her, and she took it very seriously. And I walked her through, here's some things to think about as you ingrain those standards. And sometimes major resorts are not as far along as we think they are.
Surprise.
Yeah. And when we go, whoa.
How are you doing this?
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's, I love the situations where the students graduate and they realize what a gift their education has been. And then they also know they have me and all of their professors to use forever as a, what do you think about this?
Anything to add to that? I mean, Adam, you've been consulting for a long time. You run into a lot of young people, I would imagine.
You know, I think that really when it comes down to looking at, you know, people coming in and how do they get it, I think it all comes down to when you look at the standards and you're actually touching them and managing them for the very first time, you realize that they are not independent things. They are attached to strings, and those strings include budgets, they include emotions, they include practices, they include hours, they include organizational skills, they include everything. And every time you touch a standard, it's almost like, where does this standard touch? Where does it go? And it's, you know, like the spider web of figuring it out. And as you see students or, you know, new hires come into the industry and see that for the first time, it's no longer textbook. It's no longer theoretical. You know, they've had exposure to it, you know, in the kitchen or in, you know, in some of these immersion classes, they're really great. But until you like schedule Fred on the wrong day,
right,
and you deal with Fred being upset, and then you also deal with a guest that didn't get Fred on the right day or, you know, with the right stuff, and you go, oh my gosh,
yes,
standards. Let me figure this out.
It's so much fun, I have to tell you, and I did not mean to interrupt you, but
I don't know, please.
I get so excited. We had a conversation in my luxury class last week because one of my students really wants to open resorts. Sure. And so he said, how do you know what standards are important to the organization? And I said, all right, how many of you are in your strategic management class right now? And a few of them are. And I said, everything comes down to who you are as a company, your mission, your vision, your values. Yep. What do you want people to feel that are a part of your company? And by people, I mean your guests and your employees. Oh. And your standards have to come from that. Because if one of your values is respect, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And what does that look like in a standard? And what does that look like in how we deal with our internal guests? And so it's really great to see them make those connections. And then when we go to a property, we just got to go see Zachary Lapidus at Caesars. He gave us a tour of the villas. Yes, with his team. It was amazing. And the students were blown away by something very minor. He stopped and picked up trash. And I said, so what does that tell you about what's important here to everybody, including the vice president of luxury? Right. And so like the standards have to align with who we are. And if they don't, the guest feels the disconnect and we have turnover in our employees. Right.
Yep. It's so true. And again, you see the string. Where does it get it? Yes. Where is it attached to? Like, how does it go? We cannot expect our industry to deliver without first defining, period. We can. We have to define that. We have to understand it. And the purpose of delivering is so that we have the results, right?
Yeah.
Is that we say, look, I'm doing this effort. I've defined these standards, these things that I need to be done, because I know that in the end, this is the emotion I want both my guests and my team members and my associates and whatever to feel in there. And so I will often say I need us to, how something looks, sounds, and feels. I need all of those. What does that actually look like? And a great question by that student of saying, how will I align this? And it's just like, well, you've got to connect it to the end goal. If it's not connected to the end goal, you're just wasting your time and spinning your wheels here.
And it doesn't feel valuable to your employee who is delivering the standard if they don't understand how it fits in with the goal and who our guest is and who
doesn't align.
Yep.
Doesn't align.
Well, if you were to design the ideal bridge between classroom and hotel floor, what would it include?
If I could have anything I want, and I've been told I can't.
Yes. Well, don't believe them, Finley. Don't believe them.
I wish I had a small hotel on campus, because I've been begging for this from a food and beverage perspective as well. I would love for my freshmen and sophomores to be the hourly employees in the hotel, doing the check-ins, doing the cleaning, doing all the things, so that they learn how does it feel when somebody reinforces a standard in a way that doesn't align. Like the manager that's like, just shut up and do it. Which was never the manager that Adam was, by the way.
I hope not.
Right. Me too. And then when they're juniors and seniors, in an ideal world, I would love for them to be supervising and managing their frontline staff, so that they're making the mistakes like my immersive dining students. Make the mistakes while you're here. Because when you have actual employees, the ripple effects are much greater. And as you build in your career, when you're the director of rooms and you're still just winging it, the ripple effects and the damage that you can do is so much greater. I want them to be able to do bonehead things before they're out there doing them for real.
So not to downplay UNLV, but University of Houston has that.
Yeah. Some universities, they get that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to be defensive here, maybe, of like, come on. I think one of the things that I got so well from education, and I think that there's always room to feel better prepared on the floor.
Always.
Because ultimately, hospitality is a journey of experience. Yeah. It's a journey of let me try it, let me succeed, and let me fail. Thomas Steinhauer, who was with us on us last, said
he was great.
He was great, and he said something very similar to this. It's like, look, it's coming down to, do we have the opportunity to try and to get it right? And the more we get exposed, the more we see how our actions create results and what those results were. Sometimes we do the same thing and one time it wins and sometimes it loses. And hospitality is absolutely 100% pure an industry of experience.
Yeah.
Above all. But when I look at students that, and again, also pulling from my own journey, I think the best thing that we can give is that work experience, that offer into there. But what I also think, I know UNLV requires hours, right? It requires you as part of your, to graduate, you have to have so much industry hours.
Right.
And you have to have that. But also the connection that you're getting with your mentors in the industry, outside of the industry, the fact that you're able to pull in so much authentic reality. I mean, Finley took her students to Caesar's Palace. Good luck, right? With anybody else. You get to go there, you get to wander, you get to talk, you get to see it. And then I think that the sooner the students can get their eyes opened, that the reality of hospitality isn't the balls and the dinners. It's not,
Right.
the showing up and, helping these, presidential guests, experience, whatever it is. That's definitely a part of it. But the reality of hospitality is picking up garbage.
Yeah.
It's cleaning something. It's looking through and going, oh my gosh, I really need to care. I really need to care that these guests' rooms aren't connecting and they asked for connecting rooms. And I'm going to literally change every room in the hotel to try to get these two guests next to each other at least, right? Or, oh my gosh, I know that, I am short or I've got an 86 item on my menu. What do I need to do to make this up? So people that are coming that are expecting this aren't going to lose their mind, right?
Right.
That's the reality. And I think that the faster we can connect that to the emotion is the best. And I think all of the hospitality programs actually do a really good job of trying to put that in the forefront. I know UNLV does a fantastic job of seeing that, but it's how do we make that deeper and how do we help the students connect with that more personally?
Well, and so a couple of things. Yes, we do. We have industry partners that I think every other hospitality program wishes they had, right? Our industry partners are so actively involved with our students. And that's really, I think, why we don't have a small property on campus, because we have this strip and the off-strip properties, little things that come and they hire our students. They have internships for our students so that they're getting practical experience. So that's, to your point, that's really why we can get away with not having that hotel on campus. The other thing that I really want to stress for our students is their internships that are required and that the work experience hours. And I beg my students to do multiple internships so that, like you, I can walk onto a property and step into the back of the house. I can tell you what it feels like to work there just based on the emotion, right?
100%.
So I want them to do those things so that they can feel what is the culture of the organization that's right for me, what aligns with my values, because that's the organization that they're going to be able on their hardest days to care that those two guests wanted adjoining rooms. And on their hardest days, because they're aligned with the organization, they're going to be able to dig deep to bring their best emotionally connected self. You'll be excited to know that my next luxury class, they're actually doing the Mayor Salade Caruso emotional intelligence test. And we're spending a lot of time talking about how we use that feeling every day. I can tell you're not happy. I need to figure out how to connect with you.
Yeah.
Amen. That's cool. That's my problem. It's like, I don't care if you're happy.
No. Wow.
I wasn't a very good waiter.
I was going to say, I think that waiter career was short-lived, Jason.
It was very short.
Probably wasn't lucrative for you. Weird.
You're not happy? I'm not happy.
Well, and
let's get out of here.
Our industry has a way of weeding that out.
I think Jason would be a very successful waiter in France.
You've got the theme right. That's
just
great.
To bring us full circle.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Well, let's wrap up.
All right.
From hiring managers' perspective, for leaders taking on new graduates, what do you think is something they should be keeping in mind when hiring and even onboarding students or newly graduated students?
I think, and I love that Adam already shared that feedback is a gift. I believe that if you care enough about me to tell me the truth, there's a relationship and a partnership of trust there that's already forming. I think this generation of students craves not feedback to know I'm great so much as feedback to know I'm on the right track. Yeah. And our organizations sometimes look at that as them being needy, but they really want to know. I love when Adam talks about confidence and competence. I think those two words are our biggest goals when we're training new people, is we want them to feel confident and competent, because then they can go out and be proactive and take action on things that maybe are novel situations for them, rather than going, what do I do here? I just don't know. And so that diet of feedback is really important for young people as they figure out what the ground rules are.
Amen, because this is the thing. I feel so strongly about this. The new younger generations, we're going to, air quotes here, they don't want to work, or, oh my gosh, they need so much praise. You know what? They actually just need feedback. And they just need to know, hey, is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? Like, help me calibrate. And they calibrate a lot faster than I think people realize. And I think that you're also getting, in many cases, different than what it's been in the past. Many of these individuals, this is their first time coming into a full-time role. This is the first, they never had that, summer job, because they didn't have that opportunity. So a lot of times this is their first opportunity. And so there's a couple of hey, this is what it's like to have a job, and this is how you call in, or this is how you ask for days off. And you have to teach them some of those skills that maybe were taken for granted a while ago. But once they know that, they're really quick. And for me, the thing that I want to scream at the rooftops to hoteliers, genuinely, is it is really great that you're going to take a moment and show to all of these new students, new hires, how great you are. Awesome. Like, let's do that. Let them walk their, difficult path and get their rites of passage. Sure. But on the other side, these students are coming into these operations with education and understanding far exceed what even I had.
Yeah.
The exposure that they have. And so what the gift is for them, for these hoteliers, and I mean this as truly as I can say, is you are getting a fresh set of eyes that get to experience something for the first time and see how it's actually working, without any of your mumbo jumbo justification. Well, this is how it really, listen, like, actually invite that feedback. Feedback is a gift.
Yeah.
So to these hotels and to these, businesses that are taking on these students, it's actually good to sit back and be like, what are we missing that you heard about in school? What are the things that you studied that you're not seeing in place here? And allowing them to have that opportunity to share some of the practices that they saw when they went to Caesars, or that they heard about when they were having, whoever come in and guest lecture in their classroom. And I think that the industry would be better if we were better listeners to those coming in, that, we say you have to have a college degree, so let's put it to use. Let's hear it.
Yeah. And I don't see that happening. So I don't know if you see that happening. I don't see that happening, and you're right.
And it needs to. It's something that we as an industry have to get better at and say, hey, what are we doing? We're so quick to say, well, look how good we are. Like, great. Where do we need to improve? What are the tools and the things that you learned about that we can adopt?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Brilliant.
All right. We probably got to end. I feel like I've had a breakthrough. Accountability is a gift. Embraced it. Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Feedback
you for spending time with me. I know you're busy.
For real.
You guys, this has been so much fun for me. So much fun. So thank you. And thank you for inviting me.
Oh, this was so much fun and such a treat. Thank you for joining us. This is just the greatest thing we could ask for.
You'll be
What
back.
a wonderful way to start my Monday.
Right?
Yeah.
Happy Monday, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.